So good morning, back to it. I did have a really nice break last week because I know it sounds silly during lockdown, but I have actually been interviewing people for my podcast and for this and for working on Out of the Bubble nearly every day during lockdown. So last week it was actually really nice to have a little bit of a step back, and I still did a bit of work, but it was nice to have a break. So I'm really excited about this week's guests. I've got another fabulous lineup, and today's guest is somebody that I've met through social media, and then we made a connection through an event at the beginning of the year, and we both share a love of vintage fashion. And you might not know about it, but before I was a model, I actually had my own vintage clothing business called All About Eve. So vintage and pre-loved and secondhand fashion is something that's really close to my heart. And even though I'm a fashion model, my wardrobe is probably 50% sustainable pre-loved clothes. So today we're talking to the fabulous Fernie Rouse-Ridgeway, who is the owner and founder of Maggies Magic Wardrobe, and she also hosts the Slow Fashion Forum on Facebook. So I can't wait to have a chat with her this morning. Good morning, Ferne.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I love these connections that we've made through social media. It's brilliant. How are you this morning?
Thank you. Yeah, good. Nervous, excited.
Don't be. It's just us two chatting.
Yeah.
Just really informal, so don't be. And it's a pleasure to have you on. So we both share this love of vintage fashion. Where did your passion start? How did you develop your love for secondhand fashion?
Well, my mum was always into Liberty. She had lots of Liberty skirts, and she made me a Liberty material pump bag, would you believe? And then my mum's twin, which is my Auntie Annie, she had her own dress agency called Annie's Magic Wardrobe, which was in the basement of her beautiful house. It was at Rolvenden, and it was a lovely shop, and I was like fascinated. You can imagine, can't you? So I've always been into fashion. But then years later, when I was early 20s, my dad got a job over in New York, and they went over, and turned out to be my first fiance went over, and we'd go over in order to afford to come back again. We'd go over with empty suitcases and go thrifting. It was a fabulous thrift scene over there. Salvation. 3 floors, and we'd come back with loads of things. But he was because he was a hip hop DJ, he was into sports gear, so it was all Fila, Beyond Borg, Adidas, and we'd buy like 12 inches Rapper's Delight, things like that, for 50 cents.
Wow.
Tape Funkmaster Flex's radio show on a Sunday. We bought a tape player. Mum and Dad had to tape it on a Sunday, send it over in the post so we could record it. Shouldn't probably say all that, might get.
No, it should. That's amazing. How exciting!
Massive flex, isn't it? But yeah, that's how we afforded it. And he's gone on to have his own. Actually, after it ended and moved on, he went on to have his own shop in Manchester. A friend of his said, "Well, you used to do this. Why don't you still do it?" And he went on to have his shop in Manchester, and I went on to have a career doing recruitment. So
how did you go from recruiting to doing what you're doing now with Maggies Magic Wardrobe?
Basically, I met Mark, my husband, quite late in life, 30s. Met him at weirdly enough, a 1970s party.
Love it.
So, there you go. Yeah, everybody backed out of going. It was down in the Midlands in Warsaw, and all my work colleagues, because I'd moved back up north again. I can't believe how northern I sound on here. It's great
to have some northern company.
Thank you. But yeah, you sound very good, but I sound very northern, very gruff. But so basically, nobody would go in the end. They all said, yeah, we'll go, and then they all backed out. And I'd gone and got my hair cut that day, so I thought, sod it, somebody's got to see my bloody hair. So I went down, laden, my old Mini Cooper, laden with lots of booze, thinking I'll get everybody drunk and I'll decide whether or not to stay or go, because I thought I was the oldest one going to be there. They were all like in their 20s that I'd met through my recruitment. And Mark was there and he was DJing. And I said, I think I'm the oldest one here. And he said, well, how old are you? And I think I was 34. And he said, oh, I'm 36. He said, we should get married then. Obviously, it was just a joke. But it turned out a couple of months later, he did propose. And
wow.
Yeah, and then in the following February, we got pregnant with Maggie, and then in the October, Maggie was born, and I was all yeah, because I had a really good job in Leeds. I'd travelled, I'd gone up north for my new job, and I was going to go back to work. I was on really good money. It was a real passion of mine. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so recruitment was right up my street. It was doing interim recruitment, so directors and chief execs. And I was going to go back, and then I gave birth to Maggie, and I fell in love. And it was, you yourself, because you're a mum of three.
Yeah.
I'm a mum of three.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh wow. And I conned myself into believing, I'll have a year out, the maximum I was allowed, and then I'll go back. And there was no way I was going to go back. And it was kind of an unspoken agreement, and Mark was of the same opinion, and he started his own business. So I became a full-time mum. I would say housewife, but that is not me. If you were to have a look around our home, you would suss very quickly that's not me. And then got pregnant with Albert, and then he was born in 2009. And then weirdly, stupidly, crazy person that I am, couldn't understand why I was putting weight on, and I'd stopped my period and thought, it must be the menopause. Yay. Turned out I was pregnant with Stanley. So that was in 2011. He was born, and we moved here December 22nd, 2010, which was pretty weird and scary, and had the whole family over for Christmas dinner.
Oh, gosh.
It was a bit bizarre, yeah. But so basically, I was going to, everybody, they'd all gone to school, and I was like, twiddling my thumbs, clearly terrified of housework, running away. So I thought, so I contemplated going back to work, and one of the people that I'd worked with before said, if ever you want to come back, you tell me. She'd moved on to another company, and she desperately wanted me. And I'd worked out this unique selling point that I'd got, and how I would be able to cater for the kids and my hours and all this. And it was coming up to the summer holidays. This is back in 2018. And I thought, right, okay. And then we were talking about what we were going to do in the summer holidays. And then it was like, oh, shit, I can't go back to work. I can't turn around and say, well, actually, I've got to have, 14 weeks off a year to look after my kids. So that night I had a bit of a dream, and I woke up at like 2 a.m, and I wrote it down about, I was thinking about doing a dress agency initially. And that's really how it came about. And then eventually it morphed into Maggies Magic Wardrobe, because my Auntie Annie had some things that she wanted me to sell as well, for her from her old days. And so I got started. And it's great because it means I get to please people still, make them happy with lovely things, And the modelling bit I'm completely uncomfortable with, but
but you do so well, and you do. For people that don't know you, well, I'll give them all the details of how to find you afterwards, but every day nearly you post a different photo and a different outfit, and I know how uncomfortable, we've talked about this before, I know how uncomfortable you feel about it, but your love for what you're doing and being able to show people those clothes obviously overrides that fear and discomfort.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, you kind of wonder if people think, what it's like, the whole social media. I mean, I'd never been on, that's another thing. I'd not been on social media before. The first time I've ever been on it was back in 2018 in order to start the business, and I've never done it before. And like, you'll see that I'm like really quiet, and then slowly but surely, I start to speak up. But yeah, so that's how it got started. And it's named after Maggie, my daughter, with the hopes, because she wants to be a vet, that she will carry on when she goes to university. So it'll be, a string to her bow. It's also a really good way of teaching about money and understanding, how business works and profits and margins and things like that.
And also, what a lovely thing to do with your daughter as well. Really lovely.
Yeah, she gets excessively bored of it, though. Having to take my photo. So I'm wondering if actually any money that is made is going to go towards her psychiatry in the future. To try and make her mum look all right. She's like, oh, mother, stop. What are you doing that face for? I don't know.
Keep doing what you're doing. Do you have a favourite era? Do you have a specific era, or do you just love all different styles and eras?
all really, but I'd say the 70s, probably because I was born in the 70s. Yeah, and I remember, because I mean, my mum had all the Liberty stuff, and that was really lovely. And Auntie Annie had all kind of Laura Ashley stuff. And when we go down to see her in Kent, a very kind of romantic-y place is Kent, with all the, you know, countryside and what have you. And yeah, I like a bit of Laura Ashley, and I've gotten to Marion Donaldson recently, who's the alternative to Laura Ashley, and I get to learn. I don't. Do you know about?
No, I don't. No,
do you not? Well, she was kind of like the Scottish version of Laura Ashley, which of course was Welsh originally.
Yeah.
But yeah, her husband had worked for Liberty in London, and when they got married, she'd been given, I think, by her mum a sewing machine, and taught herself to sew. And then they moved up to Scotland, and he'd bought lots of, you know, Liberty material, and she made the most amazing prairie dresses and things like this. And they were, you know, they were very expensive at the time. And weirdly, well, not, but yeah, last year I sold one that was actually, because I volunteer now at a charity shop. And the lady there, Anne, who's a really good friend of mine, she wanted me to sell some of her clothes. So I sold one of her Marion Donaldson dresses.
Oh, fabulous.
To another vintage dealer as well, my friend Katie Wheatley, and she loves it, and she bought it to wear. So yeah, I love fashion. So.
How can we encourage, because obviously at the moment there's all this stuff coming out in the news about the fast fashion and some of the, you know, the worst culprits that are like Boohoo, that aren't paying the right wages and are dealing with you know, factories that they should be, you know, paying the right wages and stuff. How do we switch people's mindset to being more sustainable, do you think? Where do we start?
It's a good question. I'm very passionate about slow fashion, as you know. I've been a slow fashion season ambassador for a couple of years now. I personally have not bought new since late 2018, about August 2018. And it, you know, it's very upsetting to me. Obviously, you know, with all that goes on in Bangladesh, of course, Primark didn't pay for their clothes. Then have the audacity to set up a charity fund. You know what I mean? When they should have just paid for their clothes. You know? Boohoo, you know, people seem to think that it's going on over there, you know, and it's not going on over here. And as sad as it is to see that, you know, that it is going on over here, I knew that was happening anyway, not specific brands, but I knew it was happening. And, you know, so maybe that people can see it going on over here, they'll think again, but I don't know what the answer is. I think the thing to do is, because we've tried talking about the environment, and still, as good as that is, still people seem to kind of go, yeah, that's in the future kind of thing, or it's not affecting them right now. So you'd hope that talking about the labour market and how poorly, you know, certainly it's an 80% plus female thing. So just mean workforce. And they, you know, in all areas, they don't get paid very much. I mean, you know, I think that fashion, as it currently stands, exploits females at every level, even the so-called influencers that get given things that they then promote, and then they're promoting to their peer group. You know, so I think the thing to do is to keep it in the news, the facts and figures about people, do you know what I mean? Because if you think about it in terms of, and it's quite interesting that our business is named after Maggie, but you know, it's kind of like, how can I be a feminist if somewhere along the way I'm exploiting women, be it in this country or another country, so that I can feel good about myself for a moment? That's
a really good point.
And it's a harsh point to make, but I think it's a really important point to make, and it's as well seeing it in this country now. Do you know what I mean? It's too close to home. I just think if we get the facts and figures out there daily, then people can't claim ignorance, for starters. But and what I do, and what all my fellow vintage sellers do, there's Miss Pigeon Vintage, the vintage girl gang, I've got a great fondness for. Honeykins Vintage, lots of people that sell vintage do it in a really lovely way. Just, I mean, it's not overpriced, it's not expensive. Of course, vintage does tend to be more expensive than the high street, but that is with really good reason. These things are one-off pieces. And that's another thing, you know, why are we wanting to be like sheep? Why are we wanting to have the latest must-have dress from H&M or Zara? I mean, I was recently watching, obviously H&M had this wonderful, supposedly wonderful, sustainable pink dress. There's no way that for 1995, organic cotton, you've got to look at the dyeing process as well, just, I mean, making it lovely pink. And then, you know, the making it over wherever they made it, Bangladesh or wherever, do you know what I mean? And actually, or China, I think it was, and shipping it over here. You know, how are they managing to do that and be profitable? And we can't imagine that actually somebody somewhere is being, you know, is being shortchanged. I mean, I was looking at recently a dress, a pink dress, not too dissimilar, but much more fabulous actually, on eBay. Again, lovely big kind of smock dress, and it had lovely embroidery on it. And you know, that went in the end for 37 quid or something like that. So a lot of money, you know. And to somebody, you know, it's worth it. I think I just wish that influencers would mix it up a bit. I know a couple that do, Ruth and Lisa, you know, people like that will mix up some charity shops finds, some vintage, and, you know, mix up their old kind of wardrobe stuff that they've kept for years. I'd rather see things like that. And I think, like I was saying about the vintage dealers, if we keep pushing and showing that you can look unique, you can look stunning, you can nail it much better than what is out there on the high street, which is all just copies really of vintage pieces at the moment. You know, 70s is madly in, you know, look at Gucci kind of revisiting their past and everything. So if we could just show that on repeat, you know what I mean, and the facts and figures, hopefully people cannot claim ignorance and go, well, I didn't know. Do you know what I mean?
I think, sorry, I just think that people might be a bit intimidated by the vintage scene. I mean, I used to sell vintage and go to the fairs every weekend, and I absolutely love it, and I do really miss it. But I do think there is an element of people don't quite know where to start when it comes to buying vintage. I think they can be a bit intimidated by the whole process. And it's just a case of turning up and going to these fairs and talking to people, isn't it? Plus online, you know, like you said, eBay now, you can find some amazing things on eBay. Yeah,
there's Depop, there's Vestiaire, which is kind of more of a high-end thing. There's loads of places. And it really boils down to, I don't understand why anybody would want to look like anybody else. And I don't mean that horribly, but that, you know, that's something that was instilled in me as a little girl. You know, my mom used to say, you know, you want to look like everybody else. You know, make your own path, like you were saying, just I mean, yesterday. And, you know, just wonder, why are we not brave anymore in that way to forge our own path? And that's why, I mean, today I've put on my page, Maggies Magic Wardrobe, on both Insta and Facebook, a lady called Bama, and Alabama Nash, and she's just a stunning girl and a really lovely person. And she bought a David.
The white dress.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Stunning dress. Very 80s. Do you know what I mean? It took a certain type of person, and she is that person to really rock it. But, you know, she's a younger woman, much younger woman than me, and she's buying vintage. And that's the other thing. I like to show people, not just because they don't have to see my ugly mug every day, but also show people how, you know, how other people do it. Do you know what I mean? You know, you don't have to, you know, if you're into 40s and 50s, you don't have to go down that always dressing that way. But, and, you know, 80s does. You know, you can get vintage 80s that is recapped on the 40s, because everything comes round and round again and again and again, like it is now. So, you know, I think basically the information being out there, vintage sellers, you know, guiding people and showing, you know, you can be different, there is a difference, and reiterating and showing people actually doing it, wearing these things, and reconfirming that message. but it's very sad to me, because like Maggie last year or the year before, it was her prom from primary school. Would you believe that's a thing now? And we had to go shopping for Maggie, and we did. We went on the high street, which but I have to do it because it's my daughter and it's her special moment, and it's important. I'm not going to be like no, but I do worry, because I kind of think that somebody's going to pat me and go, "Whoa, look, Ferne was in new look." Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh my god, so I almost have to go undercover, but Maggie and I, we went around all the shops, and there was nothing, and everything was pretty much of a similar ilk. And in the end, I'd been in Affleck's Palace like a couple of weeks before in Manchester. Also, I used to work there at one point. So, and there was a vintage lace dress there that, it was tiny and lovely. And I thought about it, but I didn't buy it because, of course, I couldn't return it. So I went and told Maggie, and I showed it, and she was like, "Yeah, that's the one." So we got that fabulous. There. Yeah, we got a fabulous, very pale kind of blue Levi's, very fitted Levi's denim jacket from the Oxfam up the road. The only indulgence was I got some regular choice shoes, which she'd probably turn her nose up at now, because she's more kind of gothy in that now. But just me, and that was it. And she got a full-on outfit, and she was happy, and she didn't look like anybody else, and so that is reassuring. And Maggie goes to all the things with me, and she does pick up bargains herself, so she does as well. And I do for the boys, shop a lot of secondhand and pre-loved, because in my view it's already been made. And I think because if you think about all the process of producing the cotton, the amount of water it takes, the dyes, the pollution. I mean, if you watch a program called The True Cost, that really does highlight, lots of stuff. This goes really deep, it's really complicated. But anyway, so, I think that it's already been made. And I think the future potentially will be either people wearing vintage or pre-loved secondhand stuff, shopping the wardrobe, being more imaginative and inventive, and that's what I'd really like to see. Or upcycling.
Can you sew?
No, not really. No, not at all. I can put the odd button back on and sew up a little seam, but I have got a sewing machine, but I haven't got a clue how to thread it. It's like rocket science, a bit like social media to me, It's like, huh?
Yeah, but you're tackling that. That's your next mission.
Sewing, yeah. But we've got a really great guy on our slow fashion forum, which I'd ask everybody to join, because it's not just about fashion; it's also about sustainability and things of that nature. Do you know what I mean? So it's upcycling, furniture as well, and repurposing things that you've got around your house and changing how they fit in your life. But there's a chap on there, and he does the most amazing things. He takes he's on YouTube. I can't think what his name is, but I'll try and update you later. But he's on YouTube, and he's taken loads of old bags, like rucksacks, and turned them into a jacket or jumpsuit, or and he takes old jackets or a shirt that doesn't fit him anymore, and he's added other panels, and it's really
I've seen him on your forum. I've seen him on the forum. Yeah.
He's magic, and I think that is creativity, and that's a real future, and that's the way I think the fashion industry should be going.
So what do you think lockdown has changed people? Do you think people have had time to take a step back? And obviously they've not been going anywhere, so they've not needed to get that new outfit for going out somewhere. Do you think people have been a bit more creative recently and changing their thoughts?
I had hoped so. I'm not convinced though, because I mean I'm constantly in turmoil with all this, because of course I was still trading during lockdown, but my husband was furloughed, so we couldn't, we had no other income, so we had to do it. And the business next door, my neighbour's got a business, and he has postmen come to his house because he has so many things to deliver. So he collects his post for him. So I was able to use that service. So that was good. I mean, it came at an extra cost, not because of him, but because obviously that is at an extra cost, as it should be. And I was in turmoil because, of course, it was like Christmas for the Royal Mail. They were inundated. And, not necessarily, I don't know for sure how good their PPI, their PPE situation was, and how well they could, social distance. So that was a real worry for me. But, as I say, I lost business as well because I do a lot of people come over that I get to know, and they'll come over and they'll have a look through the magic wardrobe, so to speak.
That's what I want to do. But that's what I want to do, Ferne. I need to come over and see you.
More than welcome.
Play. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. Come over. Actually, Laura Fawcett style. Laura Fawcett. She was supposed to come over with one of her friends who was going to model, so that somebody new and different.
Yeah.
But and we were going to do a big style shoot over in Halifax at the Peace Hall.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, lost a bit of business. But these, people that have been buying from online, ASOS and things, we heard a lot of horror stories about ASOS, didn't we? At the beginning and midway, through lockdown. And I question, but, I'm guilty of it as well, but question the desire. It seems to be, for me, that it's all females, or the majority females, this desire to have new all the time, something new, like as if it's a reward and what have you. And I get that. But the other thing to note as well is because I work at the charity shop, I volunteer at a charity shop local to me, the Deborah charity shop. Great team of people, love it. And that's where I met Anne. And I see the results of all this, I see what's happening, because we've got loads of rails of female clothes. There's 2 rails of men's clothes because men literally wear it till it's dead, so anything that comes in, it's a bonus. Children's clothes, a very small rail, and then the rest is bric-a-brac. So I'd say it's at least 80% plus. It's women's clothes, and at least 20% new with tags. That's the worst thing is the fact that we've been out there and bought things and we've just done, and I've been guilty of that in the past, not anymore, but when I was, certainly when I wasn't as confident in my body, so I would buy the wrong size dress thinking I'd get into it, and then I never would. I think there's a lot of that goes into this excess buying because we're not body confident enough to know what's going to actually fit us and look good in, I think. But I think that's that. When you see a clothes look that's just got a tag on it, still you see it on eBay all the time. But then I think, well, that's such a great way to shop, isn't it? Because you're buying something from eBay that somebody else has bought that's not going to go to landfill, that you can then get some wear out of. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's about, because now, especially with Instagram, which is hypocritical of me because I'm on there, not as a person but as a business, but people seem to view something, there was a survey done recently where young girls between the ages of 16 and 25, if it had been on their Insta grid once, they wouldn't wear it again, certainly not in Insta. And the kind of, the wears per outfit is about 3.5 on average. And that doesn't sit right, it's not sitting pretty with me at all. And that's got to change. We've, years ago, when I was still with my first fiance, I worked in a tailor's, which was his father's tailor's, Jonathan Gill, in Manchester, very famous tailors. And he had a milliner's making flat caps. So there you go. I really am northern. And I used to be the cutter of the tweeds for the flat caps. And Prince Philip and Prince Charles, they used to send their caps in to be relined. You'd turn them, you'd unpick them, turn them inside out, So the inside was now the outside and fresh, lovely tweed cloth. And then you'd reline it, steam it, send it back to Lock and Co. And it then went on to, to the owners.
Yeah.
And, and they're flipping billionaires. Yes. And they do that. So why have we strayed so far from the path? And
I know because I am, obviously it is hypocritical of me to sit here and say that I don't buy new fashion as well. That's my job. I am a fashion model and an influencer. But I've been much more conscious of, because I've always vintage and charity shopping for me has just been it's in me. I've been my sister, my mum and I can't walk past a charity shop without going in and finding something. So I'm conscious of it. But even during lockdown, it's made me much more aware of making sure I work with the right brands, and
that's brilliant. Then
that makes it up, and make sure I do show my vintage stuff as much as I show my other stuff. Because I think as an influencer, we do all have a part to play to keep this conversation going.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm excited that you feel that way, and obviously you do, and you have done for a long time, because you used to sell vintage as well. But there's a nice lady, Goldie Frocks on. She's a presenter on Look North Leeds or something, and she wears vintage on the telly, and that really excites me. I kind of think, you go, and that's just brilliant. I mean, I'm part of lots of fashion groups on Facebook. One in particular is really good, the Fashion Forward Bitch group, because they've always welcomed me, and they don't mind that, I look a bit like dorky and wear old stuff and say, fell out of the charity shop in this today. Do you know what I mean? They're like fine with that. Do you know what I mean? But there's been other groups I've been on, and that's obviously why I started. Me and Vanessa and now Donna started the Slow Fashion Forum, because we wanted an environment where, for whatever reason, there's a need for people to kind of show off their outfit of the day. And we wanted an environment where people would feel confident enough to do that, even if it was old, they'd made it, or it was charity shops. Do you know what I mean? And luckily, we've got a really good, mass of people there that are doing that on a regular basis and sharing other tips and stuff. Of course, I throw in my political stuff, and that goes down like lead balloons.
Yeah, but it's good because it's about getting the conversation out there. What's the best kind of find that you've ever had? What's the one item that you just think, oh God, I can't believe I found that?
Oh God, no. Well, there were two financially that were brilliant. But I was like, oh my God, who? Yeah, one was a Chloe handbag, the one with the big, lock on the front, just the padlock. And walking through Leeds with that, I just was like, oh my God, I felt so embarrassed. You know what I mean? It's not a bad bag. I mean, it was beautiful quality and what have you, but my goodness, it was so impractical. It was so bloody heavy because of the damn padlock. and it served no security purpose. Anybody could have got in there. And oh my God, people are going to think that I'm like rich.
You've gone out and bought that.
Yeah. I was like, no, it's not me. And then there were some Chloe boots. There were those, do you remember those lovely leather Chloe boots? Beautiful Chloe boots that were kind of thigh high. And they were almost like the Vivienne Westwood. They had the kind of ties around it.
Yes.
And I couldn't model them to save my flipping. Because the damn things kept slipping down, or I cut my circulation off for bumping in. It was like, no. As regards the best thing, well, what was the best experience for me, other than I get a lot of repeat custom, which is just brilliant. They trust me. They really do trust me with the money, which always is like, oh, wow, that's really good. And they come to me and say, I've got this event. Can you find something for that? And I'm able to do that. And also, weirdly quite good at knowing people's style and what will fit and suit them. Which is like a shock to me, but not a shock to them, and people keep trusting me. But the best thing ever was when I was invited round to a place where this lady collected loads and loads of clothes. Sadly, she passed away many years before, and I got to see the most beautiful things. And I managed to grab some for myself. Obviously I paid and then sold them on, but they were just stunning. And just to see that lady's love of her clothes, she had a summer wardrobe, a winter wardrobe, everything was packed beautifully, all in tissue. It was just looked after immensely well. And there were things that just, she had this beautiful maxi silk dress that I since sold, that I put it on and I'm, I know it sounds silly, clothes. People say to me, well, how can you sell such beautiful things? And it's like, I'm kind of a jeans or a leggings or a shorts person. I'm a bit like, I got dressed up for you today, would you believe?
Thank you. Looking gorgeous.
God, thank you. But yeah, so do you know what I mean? I'm a bit like, a bit kind of aging rock chick goth kind of thing. So to wear some of these, to try that on, I felt so special. I mean, that was the most stunning. And then she had these beautiful dresses. She had this beautiful dress with polka dots on. And I tried my hand, as you say, going out of your comfort zone. Like, this is completely out of your comfort zone. So thank you. In a good way, thank you. I got to wear a dress of hers to a networking event. And I was like that. Wow. It just felt so special. Clothes can make you feel.
Yeah. They really can. Yeah.
So it was.
What about because one thing I really struggle with is finding the right size, because I'm a 14-16, I've got a large bust. Where's the best place, would you say, for women to find vintage or pre-loved stuff that's in a bigger size? Because I do struggle with that, and I see so many clothes, like you post some amazing clothes. I go, oh, God, if a size 12, that'd be great.
Yeah. No, I know that feeling. Seriously, it's depressing modelling them. When I started this, I was probably about a size 8, 10. Now, after lockdown, I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, but yeah, even an 8, 10, you try something on that is a vintage size 14, and when it didn't fit, it kind of knocks your confidence a bit.
Yeah.
Hell, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really don't know. I mean, there's a lot of vintage sellers that do sell larger. I mean, I've had quite a few larger things lately, do you know what I mean? That have even fit me.
Yeah. I guess it's about finding a seamstress that can alter things, isn't it?
Yeah, there's that. And also the other thing because obviously you're tall, aren't you? You're really tall. I'm short. But there's a lot of dresses out there that, because people used to value their clothes a lot more, and they spent a lot more on their clothes back then. Do you know what I mean? Like the Marion Donaldson dresses would have been at the time about £46, which was a hell of a lot of money. And similarly with Laura Ashley, they compared in price. And what people used to do was they would alter them. And I've found a lot of dresses lately where they've altered them and shortened them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot in the seam to kind of lengthen. The other ways to shop, other than charity shops, is kilo sales and things like that. If you've ever been to a kilo
sale. I haven't. That's one thing I haven't actually been to a kilo sale.
They're really cool. I mean, and what's really enlightening about them, Maggie's been with me to a few. She's my quality control sometimes when I go, because I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. She's like, right, and she looks, but hey, there's a lot of kind of sports gear in that. So Maggie's managed to get, because she's gone into all this Elise feeler stuff, so it's going on full circle to when I used to get it from America and bring it over to sell. But yeah, she's gone down that route and she manages to get things there. But kilo sales are a really good place to go, and they're often free to get in or just a small fee, and it's £15 a kilo. You get about 4 dresses for that, or just I
I need to get
£15 a coat. I'll take you one time. You'll enjoy it. I think there's a place in Sheffield now that's opened that's actually a shop that's a kilo shop.
Oh, right.
So it's not a one-off event, because that's the other thing. you know, we were talking about slow fashion before. The rag trade is inundated with stuff. Yeah, obviously I work in a charity shop, volunteer, and our stuff, it gets what's known as cold. I call it Colin because I don't like the word cold, so we all have to call it Colin so Colin goes on holiday. So basically, on your charity shop label, it'll have a date, and they keep it in for 4 weeks, and then Colin goes on holiday to another shop. Because the other shop, he might get to go home with somebody and have the most amazing life. You know, same with books, same with records, everything. And eventually things get sold to rag traders. So that's how come you get your kilo sales. Or, you know, some people buy in bulk without viewing from rag traders. I don't personally agree with that. But all of which goes to extend the life of a garment. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, and at the end of the day, even if it doesn't fit, the material could become something else, couldn't it? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I had a Liberty dress last year that didn't fit the lady, but she turned it into a larger skirt because the material was so fabulous. It was Tarnalorn cotton, do you know what I mean? Which is it's just so exclusive and beautiful. And it was Liberty print, and she managed to turn it into something else. So yeah, it's about extending the life of clothes, keeping them out of landfill. Because the other thing is, if they don't end up in landfill over here, a lot of stuff gets packaged up, sent over to Africa, and ends up in landfill over there. And of course, with the quality of clothing going down, and it really is. I can't remember where I saw it, but there was a rag trader, and their business is grown by at least 60%, seriously. But the quality of the material that they are getting is gone down vastly. And, you know, and you know, this is a bloke, and he was saying, I can't understand all the waste. And obviously he profits from it. But a lot of this stuff can't be recycled. It can't even make rags. It's that bad.
Well, let's hope things are slowly starting to change. And with people like you keeping the conversation going, then we are definitely on the right. So how can people find you? Where about your website? Tell us all about your website and where we can find you.
I've got a website, but I've been lazy, so that's not happened yet. But it will happen. But hey. But yeah, I'm Maggies Magic Wardrobe on Instagram. Just look up Maggies Magic Wardrobe. There's only one of us. And Maggies Magic Wardrobe on Facebook. And if you're interested in knowing more about slow fashion and what have you, then definitely join our slow fashion forum, hashtag Only Wears Pretty Lovely on Facebook as well. Because there's not just me on there. There's lots of other people with lots of interesting things to say. Lots of style tips, lots of, you know, ideas for sustainability and what have you. So yeah, you don't just get to see me.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and lots of, you know, food for thought, lots to think about. You know, certainly in my position, I take it on board, and yeah, it's something that we should all be thinking about. So thank you for sharing your passions, and keep doing what you're doing. And I do really appreciate the fact that I know that you were nervous about coming on here and getting out of your comfort zone. So this morning, I'm really pleased that you've done that, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
No, thank you. And I hope that everybody, sorry, just as an aside, everybody watches your, which I complimented you on yesterday. I watched your Out of the Bubble post that you did when a lady was unable to get on, and about your letter to yourself at 16. It was very powerful and wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Share that in our group.
I will do. Yeah, I will do. Thank you so much.
I think that should be like mandatory for every kid in school.
I'd love, that's something I would really like to do after lockdown, when life starts getting kind of back to some kind of normality. I would really like to go and start going into schools and talking to younger girls. I think it'd be really rewarding. So watch this space, we'll see. But thank you so much.
No worries.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your week, and I shall look forward to seeing what you've got on your post this week. Thanks, Ferne. Thank you.
Take care.
And you. Bye. Well, that was really interesting, and lots for everybody to think about. And it's about getting that balance right in your wardrobe, and hopefully we can all be a bit more sustainable and think about where we're buying our clothes and where they're coming from. And yeah, I love talking to Ferne, really inspiring. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to my first casting, so I'm back to work tomorrow. Yay, I'm really excited. So I've actually pre-recorded a really interesting chat with Sarah Lister, who is a career coach. So you'll be able to cash that at 10:30 in the morning tomorrow. So in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.